little bit of background thing. One of the things I do here is create little diagrams for the flow of information through our system. And here's one. I don't know if you can see it. I can make it slightly bigger, and I can zoom in a little bit. Okay, cool. Well, this is the stating the obvious, but it is what our system does. And we've just recently added in to the Java world the ability to have a database at the back end. So if you start from left to right, which is kind of good old Western society way of writing things, we put things in a database via our workbench. So workbench is the green things are kind of my Java bits and pieces. And we can manipulate the database back and forward through the workbench. And then we were going to just write workbench XML files through and pick them up in the run control generator and generate the pinky things, the XLT, JLT, VDP, which then go on to be processed by MR95 reference, generates references files, and then we get an MR95 extract engine, and then a MR88 sort and summarization thing producing format files. That's the general flow of GenevaERS or SAFA. That's what we do. Now I'm obviously looking at this run control generator and what it does and what it produces. So I have another little picture over here. RC file flow. Let me open the preview to the side. And this is basically the same sort of picture with the right end cut down. Except we also have a tool called the Run Control Analyzer. The Run Control Analyzer takes those pink bits that were generated, and produces some CSV files or HTML files to allow you to see what is inside the VDP, XLT, and JLT. This diagram also has in the fact that the database can now be directly connected into the run control generator. Yippee-ki-yay! That's the flow of the thing. Now, I have a little bit of stuff to show, and at the same time, I would like some feedback, because being just little me, I kind of get into my own, as any developer does, you get your own view of things, which is not necessarily what users want, and you end up creating stuff that a user goes, "Oh, I don't want that." So let's, without much further ado, go and show you something. I have a little directory here called RCG Play, Run Control Generator Play, and what it will do is allow me to run the Run Control Generator, and then also run the Run Control Analyzer to look inside and generate these files and look inside them. So the raw thing of a run control generator, and in my world it's called Java MR91, JMR91, and the run control analyzer is GenevaERS RCA GenevaERS run control analyzer, and this one could be called GenevaERS RCG, but it's too close, and I didn't like the fact that it was too close. I have a little script that will run both of them in sequence. And the key thing to them running here is this file here called the PALM file. And if I cut the contents of the MR91 PALM.cfg, you can see inside there there's some information about the fact that this is going to connect to DB2. So I'm demonstrating I can connect to DB2. We are going to generate the run control files. And then this stuff here is about where we're going to get the data from. How you connect to the server, the name of the database, the schema that it lives in, the port to connect through, the environment that the view is in, and the view number. It's just a simple view. Here's the view over here. It's called one column lookup, and despite that, it's actually got 4 columns because I added things into it, but there you go. It's a fairly simple thing. It's got one column that has lookup, and then I added in you can see silly things like banana and hope2 and stuff. So without further ado, I can run my little script, which will run those 2 programs in sequence. And behind the scenes, I need to create an environment variable that has my password so that the program knows how to connect into the database and log in. Well, log in is me. And it takes a little while because it has to connect over to SVL, and it has to send the little creatures crawling through the wires to drag things out from the database at the other end. But there you go, it's done it. It's it's run Geneva the JMR91, and you can see in this directory we now have a JLT file, an XLT file, a VDP. Those things have been picked up locally by running this program called GenevaERS, and as it does it, the end thing of it is to open the browser. I automatically open the browser. Then here's a picture of the view. The view has in it a picture that shows you that's the input LR. We are only using one field called BCD as an index into the lookup table, and then we're reading the zoned value, and that's going into column 1. Column 3 is coming from a field called ednum, edited numeric to me. And you can see when you go back to there, there's the ednum, and there's the zoned, and we're reading via a lookup. That symbol means lookup. Then we've got a couple of constants, a banana and a hope2. If we hover on there, you can see the logic under there is column equals banana. If you can read that.
Yep.
And that one says column equals hope2. The other information in this thing are positions and lengths as to where they come from in the different LRs, etc. Also, we get to see the raw contents in tabular form of things like the logical record. You can see what's inside there. I think I've shown you this before. But the key is that it comes from the command line now, and it runs and it connects into the database, and there is a Java MR91 that did the job. Now, my Java MR91 at this point in time is not as fully functional as the C++ one. It does a lot of things. It does not do some things, and it does others incorrectly. And so the job is to bring it up to speed and compare it to what the C++ world does, and hence the usefulness of this tool, because I can create different versions of it, different versions of a view, and compare what's happening between the C++ and what's happening in the Java world. Now, partly in the past couple of days, what I've been trying to do is trying to make this more friendly to use. You can I can run this in a couple of different ways. You can, as a user, you can just simply type in, at this point, you can type in, once you've created this file, in the same directory as that file exists, you can type in JMR91 and it will go off and connect to the database and do things, providing you've set everything up correctly and providing you have your database password set up. Similarly, you can manually type GenevaERS RCA, and then it will go and generate all that stuff for you. Incidentally, Randall, what happens is that when you run the run control analyzer, feel free to yell out and stop me at any point. What it does is it builds up a database in a directory called GenevaERS flows. The one that we've just done is ended up in here. You can see in my time, I'm at 921. These are the files that got created. It actually creates some CSV files that are kind of useful. Randall likes them a lot.
I do.
Because you can see what's in here. I have this clever little tool as part of Visual Studio Code. I can open the thing as a preview and get to look like a table. Open preview, boom, and there we go. It looks like a table, and you can do some filtering on things and get rid of row number, and then the whole thing looks a bit like a logic table that we all kind of know. But the key, one of the interesting things from my point of view is I can go and add a new column to the view, and then I can compare the contents of the CSV files, and I can see what's been added and what's been removed, what numbers have changed, things like that. I might do that for you in a second or two. In fact, let's go and do that now. Let's go and add an extra column in here. Add insert column after, and let's make it read source file field. Let's just make it read some field called description, and that's it. It did it. It's there. We activate the view. And in the fullness of time, there we go. It's activated, and it's saving. Okay. Now, that gives a bit of background for the thing, because I'll show you. And what I was trying to do was be nice to users, in that if you run the program that is called GenevaERS RCA and you ask it to produce a menu, this menu is partially working. And here we go. The way in which, if I flick back to this diagram over here, the way the source of these VDP files and XLT files could be, you could get them from your mainframe, you can FTP them from there, you can make them locally through your run control generator via talking to the database, you can make them locally on your machine via talking to some Workbench XML files, or I can make them locally via my MR90, my C++ version. So there's a few different ways of getting them. And so there's a menu here says, which way are you going to get your run control files from? The one that works at the moment, the others don't entirely work just yet because I haven't put them in there, is number one, process from a local database, because that's what you've just seen. And then it gives you a little menu. And this little menu allows you to basically create what is going to be in that file. So schema for this is Safa WBGD. there's nothing like doing things live to make mistakes. So I'll try and do it a little bit carefully. 308 is the environment. 6 is view IDs. It's 12 or 44. And this time, one of the
in a question.
Yep.
These things that you just typed in here, those were in the configuration file that you had earlier?
Yeah.
And
they are.
You're changing them in this instance rather than having them pre-populated there?
No, what happens is when I hit this button number 8, it will take these values and regenerate that file. Excuse me. It's just writing that file for you on your behalf.
But how come portions of this file were pre-populated when you first got into this screen, right?
Oh, you mean these things?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. I took the liberty of connecting those because that's the only database we can connect to. You can actually connect to a Postgres database as well.
But why? I guess what I would have thought would have been a little more intuitive for me is if you had read the existing configuration file and showed it here, and then I could choose to change it.
Yeah, except I don't want to provide. I can't really provide an editor, but I could pop up those values, populate those values by reading the file.
Yes.
But I was trying not to write a parser.
No, but that's fine. You could have a replace option, right? It's not an edit so much as if you want. Here's your prompt. If you want to change this, you can type in something completely new.
Sure, you could.
Okay.
And you could just edit the file manually because it's just a little text file.
Yeah.
This is kind of what I'm kind of wondering about is whether it's worthwhile doing this menu or whether it's worthwhile just having as a user just to edit the file. But one thing that this does for you that it's not immediately obvious is that when you do this stuff, it will save the results of your analyzer run in a little database. So here are, and they're all here. They're all get a name. By default, it's RCA, the one that just runs from the command line. The others, like I'm about to do now, is I can call this. How about we call it? Oh, don't do that because that will really mess things up. 7 is the name for the RSet. So call it Zoom demo. So the result set has a name. Those 3 files are going to be stored in a directory called Zoom demo. So now if I press 8 to run the thing, it'll go off, connect into the database and put the XLT, JLT and BDP into a directory called Zoom demo. And then it'll run the thing and we'll get our picture. And this time our picture is slightly different because we added an extra column and there's the column linking back into the description. And when you look at
actually, can I give you a comment then, Ian?
Yep.
In your search for the menu, to me seems valuable for less experienced people because there's a structure to it.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. But so it's like all these things. If you know what you're doing, you can go and create your own. But there are some steps you need to understand before you can do it, because what this has done is it's created a directory called Zoom demo. If I list what's inside Zoom demo, it's not going to be terribly surprising. It's a log file and the VDP and the XLT and the JLT. So to do what the menu has done, you can manually make a directory. You can manually change into there. you can manually make this config file. If I cd into Zoom demo and cat MR91 palm, then you can see they're the values that we put in. That's the thing. If you're doing it manually, you can what I often do is just cut and paste them and then edit the number of the environment, or they're the things you tend to change. The rest is pretty stationary. Occasionally we point into a different schema. And then you can manually run the command JMR91 and it would go off and get these things for you. But the command to create a named RC set is a parameter. There is a command line parameter to the RC, the run control analyzer, but I've actually forgot what it is now. I've changed it a little bit. You got to do that bit slightly differently. And what happens is, see, there's my Zoom demo. In my database of stuff, there's my Zoom demo and all the CSV files and HTML files that go to make up this picture. They're all there. And I like I was saying, that Randall likes the fact that you can take something like this and I can select it to compare. The previous one was in RCA, and I can select it to compare with that one. Compare. This is using a tool called Beyond Compare. And you can see it doesn't let me zoom in here, but you can see it's added in this green line, this new DTE, because it's the new column. And it tells you, in fact, column number somewhere. Yeah, column number 5 has been added into there. And subsequently, the values of the rows afterwards, 12, 13 has now gone to 14 because, etc., because there's a row after that. Other things that change are the length of the DT area is now a little bit longer because we added in the description column, which is 19 bytes long. The date it was generated, the time it was generated is different. And the number of, there's a time thing in there, and the number of different types of records. It's 15 records, now 16. And the F2 kind of records, there used to be 3 and now there's 4 because we've added a new one in. So it shows you the kind of the differences that are in there. This Beyond Compare actually puts it nicely as a table for you as well. So you can see the value of the tool to me as a developer, and perhaps to a user who wants to get more in-depth understanding of what Safer is and what GenevaERS is and how it does its thing. And that kind of is a little bit where the use of the menu would come in more helpful, because I can change the name there to be, if I wanted to add another column or do something else to the view, I can call it Zoom Demo 2 or 3 or whatever, keep changing the number. Or I could automatically figure out, oh, this is the same one, and recreate a new directory with a new number. The other things that are useful is, I'm in the wrong directory, CD. That I haven't actually got working yet is to get the things from an XML, Workbench XML file, or from FTP, or you're just really pointing it at a local directory that contain an XLT, BDP, etc. You can also my previous version of this, which I don't think this is live now at the moment, is I can basically open that directory, this directory that was coming up before. I can open it up through the menu. I can also list all the RC sets instead of you seeing them for yourself in File Explorer and having to understand where the things were. It'll basically list the names that are there, and then you can choose one and it'll show you what's inside that. Instead of you basically, if you want to see an old one, you can go in and look in here and open the appropriate file and get the picture of what's inside. You can do that manually, or you could do it through the menu, and you don't need to remember what's going on. So I'm, yeah,
that's very interesting to me. That's a lot of work.
Yeah, well, it's actually, yeah, it is and it isn't. It's kind of fun, but I mean, I'm aiming this kind of at the likes of Jill and Neil, and Randall, and I don't know whether they would prefer a menu system of doing it or whether they'd be happy managing to edit the files and stuff themselves.
Look, I like the menu, it just makes it easy. I mean, I'm sure I could edit a file, but if I only use it once in a blue moon, it's remembering what to put where. So the menu really helps. One thing I'd say, so you call it the RC set. To me, that's not really clear what it means. I don't know if you could call it something like results directory name or something like that.
Well, it's meant to be run control set because they're the run control files.
No, I get like that now, but yeah, it's RC set, because I look at it and think, oh, I don't know what the RC set name is. What am I supposed to put there? But if you say it's something like it's the results directory, then
or even spelling out run control set would be.
Yeah, I can do that. One of the things I've got an option to, and I haven't actually put it on here at the moment, is in brackets I put comments to try and explain what these things are, because it's actually, in fact, I think I do it in the next one. If I go one, yeah, it's the in brackets I had it's the RC set name. It's just a name, a collective name to hold, in which to hold those three things. The fact that it's a directory is kind of incidental.
Well, it is, but it's useful to know that. It is definitely useful to know that.
Sure.
To me, RC set name, I look at that and think, oh, is that something special? What should I put there? Whereas if you just say results directory, then I know exactly what it is, what's going to create, or what it's, what it's used for.
Sure.
I know you understand RC set name, but maybe someone.
Yeah.
I mean, my feedback from me, Ian, is that I don't think I would do a lot more of options on the menu. I think you've got a lot of options there already. And yes, you might make somebody a little more efficient, not having to go to, the Explorer, File Explorer to find something and that sort of thing. But that's not the key purpose of this, is to replace File Explorer. It's to do the things that you can't do any other way. And so, kind of like Jill said, the menu is very useful because you won't remember the commands, but you don't need to have a menu that has all the possible functionality you could do through command line and all of the options that may be available if you can get through 90% of the functionality. Then you really hit a sweet spot, because it's not too complex. At some point, menus become too complex, and you start working against the point of helping the user in a simple way.
The options 5 and 6 on here were just, that's as much as I was going to do. 6 might be over the top. It's I've actually found it's quite useful. But so it basically shows you the file explorer look, but you can do 5 and open. Basically, you open that level of directory at that point there, and you can choose whichever one you want. But yeah, cool. I will continue to make this work then, because it's kind of useful. This one, you've used this before, Jill, yeah? Grabbing the thing from FTP and getting a picture of what has been generated on the mainframe in a particular data set.
Get an RC set via FTP. So obviously getting it from the mainframe to your PC.
Yeah, and then processing it. Yeah. So this section is all about, where do I get the run control set from? I can generate it locally. I can generate it via a database or via Workbench XML. Or I can go and get it from the mainframe, or I can find one locally that that's kind of for me, because I've generated it through C++. But it's also, you can, if you have one that you've also previously downloaded, but you want to reprocess, it's kind of, you use that one. So that's
since you've got get an RC set via FTP, could you have the opposite? So you generate one locally, and then you can just say, right, send it to the mainframe.
I think
yes and no.
My thought the other way, Ian, just to react there. That last one sounds to me like it's more like view, reprocess, or view one you've already analyzed.
Yeah, it's both. It's because it's for me, and possibly for you. If you generate things through the C++ run control generator, you will have them hidden away somewhere, and you can go and find them and use and process them.
Maybe analyze is a better word. Generate and analyze. Is that, I don't know. Process just mean.
Yeah, process. Yeah, okay. Just generate and analyze. Yeah.
And you could, and I think the last option, even I think I might consider on option 4 just using analyze, even though it might not, just because it kind of distinguishes from the generate and analyze. You're really just analyzing something that you have one that you've done someplace else. Whether it came, you don't have to worry about whether it came from the C++ or something else. In this process, you're really just analyzing one you already have.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, once you get in there, it's going to ask you for the name of the directory you want to play with. And ideally, they are local to where you are. 7 exit. So this thing has created this directory zoomed under there, so you can just type in analyze and then give it zoom dem, and you'll basically reprocess the contents of that file. Or if you know where you are, you can give it some relative name to where you happen to be. Yeah.
But you could see the difference between 1, 2, and 3 a little bit. I think 3 is named okay. Get a run control set via FTP. That seemed intuitive to me. And 4 is just about analyze rather than generate and analyze. Just analyze a local set.
I'm just writing that down, just in case my little brain forgets it. Oh, the reason I had to go to the door earlier was because we just had an air conditioning guy come to maintain our aircon, and now he's put it on and he's blowing cold air into my office, and it's cold.
Toughen up, mate.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's good. That's good feedback.
Then going a little bit further there, and what's really the value for 5 and 6 in that menu?
It saves you having to know where the fact that it's stored in that directory. It's relative to your home directory, and the results all live in there. The results of all previous tests.
How does that differ from 4 though?
4 is not where 4 is where the run control sets live. This is where the results live. The processed, analyzed results. There are no VDPs or anything in here.
But why wouldn't you combine? I mean, if somebody selected option 4 and you looked in the directory and there was already results generated there, you could do basically what you're doing at 5. If there's not results in there, then you could do what you were planning to do in 4. I don't see the big difference between 4, 5, and 6. They seem to be much more closely related, and the menu gets more simple.
Yeah, what I was trying to do was collect these are all of the previous runs I've done, and this is really useful for processing certain customer sets of views. You can build up a history of them all. If you don't have that, then you end up with them all over the place. This is what I have experienced in the past. You end up with processed result sets spread all over your machine and you can't find them. Whereas if these names here meant something like that correspond to the names of the views and things that are in a customer particular thing, then you can go and look them up and see the picture of them straight away, instead of searching around on your machine for them, which is...
Well, but the question that raises in my mind is you have to kind of wonder about kind of a source code control kind of issue. If it's on my machine, when did I generate it? And how have things changed since I generated it? So is there value? The process of running it didn't seem that long anyway. So to help users avoid looking at ancient reports, isn't there value in just making it easier for them or more intuitive for them to regenerate the results so they get the most current view of things?
Yeah, maybe. Certainly when you do it locally, I mean, if you do option 1 from the database for certain large views or combinations, and as the other thing is, it's not just a single view. The other thing is that it's for different groups of views.
Yes.
And
passes. Yes.
And passes, yeah. So you can have, and it can take a long time to generate the pass. And you don't, if you want to look at it again, I tend to just look at the results and because to save time, it can take many minutes.
But I still view that as a subset of option 4 as opposed to its own menu option.
Yeah. It's very quick and very easy to do, so I'm kind of going to leave it there. It was a cinch to do.
Okay.
Because behind there, there's really just it just says.
Well, why wouldn't you replace 4 with 5 then? Just make that the 4 option.
No, because the contents of that is not the same as the contents of that.
Okay.
The contents of the thing that you look at 4 is like what's inside that Zoom directory there. It's the XLT JLT. It's not what has been generated.
Okay.
And I didn't want to mix them up.
Okay, I gave you my feedback. You now can use that however you think best.
So that's kind of what I've been working on.
Yeah.
Yep.
Ian, Jill had asked you a question. You were interrupted by Kip. Can you guys remember what that question was?
Can Jill?
I'm not sure.
Sorry about that, Eugene. Thanks for pointing that out.
Yeah, sorry, I can't. I can't remember.
I think the basic thing is that yes, this menu approach is useful, and I will continue to make. It will take the most difficult one was to get there, and I also had to create. Because underneath here you end up with a lot of repetitive code if you're not careful, and I took the repetition out, and then I got myself into a mess because I was tired and etc. But now I can very quickly change this menu and make it do what I need it to do. And I will continue with this, and you should be able to get this in a couple of days. In fact, you can get this one here as it stands right now. You can go and build the Java front end and you'll get it. It's just that Maven install stuff.
Can you go back to the report? Because I have a more pressing question, the results set.
This thing.
Yeah. Have we considered yet the color scheme you chose here yet? Because that seems to be something we should talk about. Just kidding.
Okay, just kidding. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, you should be able to get it pretty soon, and I'll add in the extra sections and make it do the FTP and all the rest of it. It's because the Workbench XML process is much faster than database. That's why that's there as well. If you keep your XMLs around, things like that issue we just had with the old the subtotal thing, that error that was floating around, Jill.
Oh yes, yeah.
It'll be much easier to reprocess the views and look at things via Workbench XML than it will be the database, because that's the big view.
Okay. If you know where to look. Yeah.
If you know where to look, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cool.
Very nice. Very nice.
Thank you, Ian.
Yeah. Yeah.
Pretty impressive.
Very impressive.
Yes.
No worries.
Yeah.
Randall really liked what he saw, I'm sure.
Actually, I finally got in. I finally got in. I saw the last test.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I will plod on with this, and no more than a couple of days, I should have this kind of working much more clearly, and then it'll be a thing that we can raise tickets on, and I can fix it should you manage to break it. It's easy to break at the moment. That's the other aspect of it. It's because we're developers. You can be a bit more tolerant to things. But yeah. Okay, back to you, Andrea.
Well, we only have 2 minutes left.
I have one comment, Andrea, that I realized.
Go ahead.
I have made plans to go to the Open Mainframe Summit. I have an assignment or an opportunity to work the IBM booth there. If there was conversations or people I should connect with, I'd be happy to get recommendations about those over. And I don't know that I'll be able to join next week. I'll be at the blockchain conference next Tuesday evening, but the following Tuesday will be the week before. So in 2 weeks, I could ask if there's any specifics of who I should talk to or something about that. Okay.
All right. I think we're all adjourned. Had a lovely demo
Andrea.
this evening. And thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Ian.
Cool.
Thanks, Andrew.
Cheers.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Cheers, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.